have a good conversation today. This is Leilani Coffin, your host, publisher and CEO at Learning Counsel News Media and Research, and also Grandmaster Edu Jedi. So I'm excited to be with everyone today. We have with us today Dr. Jasna Aliefendic, Technology Applications Coordinator from Garland ISD, and one of my good friends, and also a good friend, Brad Moser, who's the Director of Blended Learning, Blue Valley School District number 229 in Kansas. And then also Suzanne Lucas, who's the VP Digital Product Marketing at Scholastic. And so here's how this is going to roll today. We are going to, I will frame out the whole conversation of really what digital content should be doing for teachers, just frame that up a little bit. And then I'm going to come at all of the speakers from a bunch of questions perspective, including how are teachers using digital content in your district right now. A couple other sort of interesting questions. But before I do that, it's really important for us to sort of frame out a little bit of what Scholastic, as our sponsor today, is already doing, which is new news, because that sort of advanced view of what it could be doing sort of helps the discussion. So I'm going to turn over the sharing to Suzanne for a minute here and have her share out. Suzanne, you ready?
Yeah, thanks, Leilani.
Okay, good. All right, I'm stopping sharing and letting you take over sharing and do this part, and then we'll all have discussion. And anybody who's on the line right now, feel free to type in questions at any time, raise your digital hand, raise your concerns. We really want to have everyone be part of the discussion.
Great. Well, thank you, Leilani. And please definitely ask questions. As Leilani mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing for our digital solutions at Scholastic Education. And I'm really honored to be here today. As a former first grade teacher, I really am passionate about how ed tech should really be helping teachers, right? How can we build capacity for what teachers are doing in the classroom, but also how can we make their lives easier, especially right now where there's so much uncertainty and what normal looks like today is not what we're expecting in September. And so when I think about the power of personalized learning and what it does, not just for students, but what it does for teachers, I think about the ability to understand where students are and meet students where they are, at the same time providing data for every educator from every level, but especially for our teachers. This year, Scholastic launched what we're calling the Scholastic Teacher Dashboard, which takes data from across 5 different programs and makes instructional recommendations for groups based off of interest, reading level, whether it be guided reading or Lexile, as well as phonics and phonemic awareness skills and vocabulary skills. So looking across different skills and different interests, making instructional grouping recommendations for teachers, and then tying those groups to instructional recommendations for small group. And I find this to be incredibly important. As I mentioned, being that former first grade teacher, I used to have a balanced literacy class. And when I had my 33 students, I didn't really have a good sense of where each child was at any given moment. Because it's really hard to keep track of every child when you're meeting with small groups, maybe once a week or twice a week. And I know lately it's been even more difficult as a mother of 2 elementary school children. I know that there's a deep challenge for teachers really just trying to juggle it all because they have so much to do, especially if they're hybrid like my kids have been, where there's some kids remote and some kids in person, and the teacher's just trying to engage all kids at the same time and meeting all of their needs. And that's something that not only does digital solutions allow you to have data to inform instruction, but it also allows you to build capacity within what you can do for your teachers. Teachers need to have their time freed up in a manner that is purposeful for their students. So at Scholastic, we've dedicated a lot of resources in the last few years to creating personalized reading instructional programs, such as Scholastic First, an adaptive foundational reading program that starts students with phonemic awareness. And it really is a pre-K through 2 program designed to meet each child exactly where they are while providing that robust data to teachers. When I think about doing those one-on-one assessments, it's amazing that we can, with a software program, see exactly which phonemes students are challenged with. Or with Scholastic Word, which is a vocabulary program we built with Dr. Elfrida Hebert, This is a game-based program that helps students, are exposing students to the 90% of vocabulary that they will encounter in school and do it in a grade-specific way. There's no way a teacher in a year can directly instruct students in every single word they need to encounter, and then differentiate instruction based off of how they're performing on those vocabulary skills if they don't know that they don't have that data. And we'd like to say we bring it all together with our Scholastic Literacy Pro, which is an ebook program that's also we talked about blended learning. It's a blended learning program where it has instructional resources for teachers as well as ebooks for students and quizzes. And it's the only independent instructional reading tool that provides both guided reading and Lexile support for educators. So at that, I don't want to say too much more. I want to really get to the conversation that Leilani has planned. But at Scholastic, I don't know how many of you know, this last year was our 100th anniversary, and we really pride ourselves in the partnership with schools and working together to figure out the best ways to not only meet students, but especially to meet teachers. Our CEO, Dick Robinson, he's very passionate about supporting teachers in all that we do, and it's a very big, important piece of what Scholastic does. So we're here to help. I'm available to chat, and if you want to check out our website to learn more, but at that, I'd love to turn it back to Leilani so that we can get to the conversation.
Okay, great. And Celeste Bearden on the line just wished Scholastic happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a big deal. It just stunk that it all happened in the middle of a pandemic because we didn't really get all those parties we were hoping for.
Yeah, totally understand. Okay, so Jasna and Brad, I know, we want to get into maybe a little brief overview about what's going on in your district. And you've probably both seen what I'm showing on the screen right now, which is sort of an overview of all the stuff on the landscape. And a lot of this stuff is behind the scenes for teachers, like an LMS and what you're doing with data warehousing, security, and analytics. And at the school level, is sort of back here behind. It's not, an LMS touches into the classroom, but really it's all these little bits and pieces that are little mini, they're apps, or they're something from like what Scholastic was just showing for reading programs and vocabulary programs, that kind of stuff, or they're a little course from Khan Academy, or it's, it's kind of all over the map, or it's just a little scanned in piece of old textbook. It's just a, little thing, but there's all this stuff going on in the classroom level. And when we look at it, we sort of differentiate between what takes a lot more planning for the teacher, which is the crux of our conversation today. All the little tiny bits and pieces that are not really automated, they're sort of like scanned in things or a little short video or whatever, versus when you get into single loop animations, those are sort of gamified PowerPoints, video clips, collectionware, some site that just gives you a bunch of stuff, feedback loops and coding. When you get at that level, you're getting into professional coding. Even though some teachers can do WordPress coding, now we're getting to the highly designed stuff that requires a degree in coding. And then when you differentiate between these two levels, the atomized stuff versus the professionally coded, gamified, using AI, like Suzanne was talking about, you start to see a need for the administrations to step in and help a little bit. Now, Yas, I know you're very immersed in this, and Brad, you also are very immersed in this. So I want to start you out with any background you want to give about your district, and then how are teachers doing this now that you're seeing, making these differentiations, or are they at all? And is there sort of continuity going on in operations, sharing, or is it sort of a still classroom level Wild West? What's happening? And Jasna, can you go first?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Leilani. As you know, we at Garland ISD, we are a large school district, so we provide curriculum for all of our content. We are using Canvas to provide, we use Canvas as a learning management system, and so far it's going well. For lower elementary school, we use Seesaw, and that works well for those kids. So with all of this curriculum that we provide, you all know that curriculum department cannot provide personalized instruction for every single child. So what we do, we provide curriculum for based on the state standards for each course and each content area. Now, our teachers are the ones that are doing the personalization of learning, and I'm so glad that Suzanne mentioned that having that personalized learning being focus of Scholastic. I also appreciate you guys doing that or creating the game-based vocabulary activities for students, because that's how they learn. So with personalized learning, it is so difficult for teachers to actually differentiate instruction for all of the kids when some of them are in the classroom and some of them are still at home. We hope for the best in the fall, but nobody can with guarantee say, hey, this is what it's going to be. Every single child will be back in the classroom. We don't know that. We can't with certainty say what's going to happen. So, but we are preparing our teachers to learn how to personalize that learning and how to use the content that we have from different textbooks and online tools, so that they create either playlists or choice boards for students, and make sure that maybe sometimes even a combination of a playlist and choice board, so that students can either learn in a sequence, if that is desired by the teacher, or if the student can, let's see, to cover the content, they can learn maybe have maybe two different options, to cover the content, then do some activities that the teacher require, and teacher can give them the choice of the activities or number of activities to select from, and then finally showing their work by doing some projects or something like that. So we're trying to make sure that our teachers have correct tools, for providing that personalized learning for all of our students. It is difficult. It's hard because it takes lots of time on teachers' end. And as you know, you know me for quite some time, and you know that I never I'm not a strong believer in one product being the solution for absolutely everything. I'm long enough in education to know that different products, but teachers' content and content knowledge and instructional strategies and pedagogy, all of that combined is what gives students that learning experience that they deserve. So together, when we combine all of that, that's the only thing I believe we can make sure that we provide personalized learning. So teachers with tools like the ones that Suzanne just showed from Scholastic, they do have an option in creating playlists and analyzing the data and seeing where each student is. They do have opportunities to create small groups or big groups, or let students work on their own. So those are the things that I really appreciate. And I think that programs that we try to purchase or implement need to have all of those components like being able for teachers to see where students are, to have some kind of a pre-test so that diagnostic test, so that we can analyze the data and see what direction each student needs to go. So, and also obviously creating programs are attractive for students. I hate to say this, but yes, sometimes I feel we are in the entertainment industry, because if it's boring for kids to look, they will not even look at it. So that's why those game-based vocabulary are attractive for kids, because that's something they can relate to. That's how they learn through play. So I appreciate that too. And I think the more we incorporate items like that, that students are familiar with and the students are eager to learn more about, the better we will be in personalizing the instruction.
Exactly. Lots of comments I want to make to everything that you just said, but I know Brad is probably chomping at the bit because he's done some really innovative things there as well. So Brad, let's give your sketch of your district.
Yeah, Dr. Jasna, that I have a lot of comments too that are swirling on multiple things. So I'm excited to just kind of have a conversation today. And Suzanne, thanks for kicking it off and sharing about Scholastic here in Blue Valley. We're located just south of Kansas City on the Kansas side, but go Chiefs! We're Chiefs fans. I'm in a K-12 public. We have about 23,000 students that are in the district. So 5 high schools, 9 middle schools, and 21 elementary schools. So yes, we have this landscape where we try to provide, and very similar to what Jasna, you will have to forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right. So just feel free to call me out anytime. There it is. Anytime I'm pronouncing it wrong, but very similar to what you're doing there in Garland. We provide a curriculum, and that document is very big ideas, essential questions, enduring understandings, enduring experiences that we want our students to have. But then we also know that and trust that we hire high quality professional teachers that can make these personalized connections with our students to the standards. And so we don't have a lot of district purchased and provided ed tech tools, if you will. We kind of have a small subset, some foundational ones, and then the schools and the teachers have some autonomy there to then go and purchase or use some of these tools, the Scholastics, the things like that, where needed. So that's kind of been our approach. And what's interesting, so for example, this year, right, crazy year, we onboarded. So I'm trying my best to when do we decide to purchase digital content or digital ed tech tools that should be more provided equitably throughout the district? And when do we let the schools kind of have their own autonomy? But in giving them that freedom, what I'm seeing is sometimes that might create some inequity of opportunities because one school has bought, one of these platforms. Let's say I know one example, Literably, right? Does a reading score, does Lexile. Literably does reading records. So I have a couple schools that are kind of trying that out, but that's not widespread across every school. So, kids that are using that might have a slightly different experience than in another school. I liken that to that's no different than letting the teachers in all the schools they all present the lessons a little bit differently. They all teach it differently. We're not forcing them to teach a lesson in a specific way. We're giving them the art and the craft and let them control that. But that's a challenge from a district perspective of when do we onboard some of these tools, when do we not? And so one example I wanted to share in that is we recently rolled out Nearpod for the district. And we had several schools that had purchased pro license, but not everywhere. There's other players in this little market of, sort of live, synchronous, formative feedback. And because of the pandemic and because we were more distance learning, we found a problem in that there was kind of some low student engagement and through the Zoom, the live synchronous lessons. We were lacking for that live Zoom formative assessment. You can use Zoom polls. That's great, but we felt we needed a little bit more, and we surveyed and polled some folks, and eventually we landed on let's go after a tool that can help sort of attack that formative piece, nature, attack this little student engagement, and give every student a voice during a live lesson. And so we stumbled with we set up with Nearpod, and it's been nice to see as a district. We decided collectively that is going to be one of our mainstream tools for live synchronous formative assessments, we have a tool in place as a district to be able to do that. And it does the things that Suzanne says. It allows the teachers to design and create, but it does make it a little bit easier for teachers to spin up a live formative assessment. It's got this great quick launch option. You can just quick launch an open-ended question. Boom, now every student can quickly share their voice, and the teacher can then share those out via the screen. So there's a couple of things that saves time for a teacher having to figure out how to do that. And then it has data on the back end of it. So that data can be used, leveraged to, inform the instruction. So that's one recent example of where I'm seeing a positive impact of some digital. It's not really digital content. It's more digital tools that are impacting and making a difference in the classroom. But I think we're very similar to Dr. Jasna in that teachers design the personalized learning experiences, using some of the district provided tools, but then also in the, what'd you say, Leilani, the Wild West of the myriad of other tools that are out there.
Just so you guys, just so you know that we're currently in the middle of our big national survey, and we normally have done only administrative level surveying. This year we launched a teacher survey too. So we have a survey on both sides. And one of the things we're finding is that the answers of what's actually being done that the administrator says teachers doing is different than what the teachers are saying. Really wild. But there's a number of things here to say, and that is that there's going to be increasing friction between the letting of everybody do whatever they want and the Wild West of it all, and the need for data, because equity, inclusion, data reporting itself, right? Got to get everybody back on achievement track. So there's a friction there. So let's come back around on that question. But Suzanne, why don't you go and talk about what does Scholastic actually see on the ground? Because your tools actually could be part of core learning. But I think probably a lot of teachers, they treat it like supplemental, like here's a fun game to play for a little while, rather than hey, this is really robust. Let's lean on this, and then that frees me up to do more personalization. What are you seeing?
So thanks, Leilani. And I think we see a lot of what Jasna and Brad have been saying. We have, apologies, always when I start talking, the dog starts to choke. But we see a lot of it. And these programs that I presented are a snapshot of what we do. We do have a core ELA program that we built these programs into as part of the solution to make sure that we're meeting the phonics goals and the word study goals. Because I think, Jasna, you said it the best, not one program can do everything for anyone.
Yeah.
And I love that you guys both said that the teachers are creating the personalization. Our goal is not to ever take anything away from the teachers. It's always to help lift the teachers up and provide them the support that they need. Our CEO was a teacher. We have so many previous educators in our midst that everything that we create is always with the student and the teacher in mind. And oftentimes we do it in collaboration with. So we're constantly trying to evaluate what is next. And, we're seeing a lot of kids who are Zoomed out and Google Meets out, and they're just tired of being online. And yet when they go home, the first thing they want to do is watch YouTube. So they're not tired of technology per se, but they're tired of learning via technology. And so we have to continue to, support teachers with these instructional supports, provide that data that rolls up to that district level to show that evidence of learning, while also keeping those kids engaged with something that does feel like it's a game, so that we can compete with the games that they go home and want to play.
Yeah. If it's good enough, they don't even know they're learning. Okay, so this gets into the next sort of issue, and I want to find out from Jasna and Brad kind of what they're feeling and seeing in this issue, which is, our topic for the day is really what content should be doing for teachers. But we run into this arena of the thinking of teaching as a very defined source of knowledge. So, and in the digital world, that means the creation of the playlist, the piece, the lecture, the togetherness moment, the giving kids questions, getting answers back, here's an essay to do, blah, 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 and the distribution of what to do next in every single step, okay? So if we have this definition, what is actually going on in advanced digital courseware and collectionware, right, like that has multiple levels and modules, there's a friction there because it's doing some of the distribution and of knowledge alongside of the teacher, which is why I think Suzanne just mentioned what she did. She doesn't want anybody to ever think that, because they didn't design it that way to take the teacher role away. But I would observe that the role changes when you move to digital. And that is the key thing we have to look at. And like I said, the frictions are those equity frictions, like Brad, you already pointed out, like one somebody's using this over here, but not using that over there. How do you know if the achievement goes down in one area, if it's the not using it, or if it was the teacher? You don't know anymore. So there's a lot of friction here. And so the discussion about what you're using also is about your leadership, Jasna and Brad, elevating people to understand what software can do to alleviate their role and give them time back.
Leilani, I had a question or a thought as you're saying. I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you're about to ask.
No, that's good. I was just done.
Oh, well, so a thought you share, and I wonder, this group here, I mean, we have some great expertise here around this, this just hit me, so I'm just going with the thought here.
Yeah.
Is the technology, so we have content, we have a tool that we use for credit recovery, and it's a great tool. It has standards, aligned content, it's got lessons and activities and quizzes, and but it's digital content. The kiddo takes a diagnostic test, and then it automatically will say, hey, here are the standards that you're falling short in. Let's customize this list, and then complete these activities within based on that little algorithm. My wonder is while it's doing that customization, it's really not. Is that really personalizing that learning experience for that kid? And I think the answer is, well, yeah, because you did a diagnostic test and you were short on these 3 standards. And now here are the lessons, the activities that this program is saying, hey, we've designed these to help that kid master that standard. So go and do those. And it's a little bit not humanistic and not personalized, but I mean, it is delivering the personalized like lessons that this is what the kid needs to do. But I'm having a little bit of like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Somebody sat down and coded an algorithm to say, if they miss this question, then they get this. But that's not really necessarily the case, because how do we know that question is really capturing the piece that they got wrong on? Not, they don't know phonemes or something. And so that's what they needed. But so I challenge that a little bit. And I think that's where teachers and the efficacy of teachers using digital tools is what we really need to empower. So it really comes down to this blend of lean on these tools to allow for the distribution and allow for that management stuff, save you the time. That's the number one thing I hear from our teachers when I'm like, hey, let's do some good blended learning. Boom. I can't. I don't have time. I don't have time in my PLC to meet. I don't have time to, think. I'm in the car line to make, like, there's no time to do this. So we got to help them sharpen their skills and using these tools to get at the data they need, and somehow dig out of all of the data that will be thrown at us when we use these tools. I love Nearpod. We use Canvas as well. Love it. We helped our teachers use the legacy quizzes, create the new quizzes to be able to have some great formative assessments and provide data. But sometimes you get like data smashed. You get drowning in data, and it's almost overwhelming. And Suzanne, I like that you guys have a nice dashboard to try to tease out important data and not just have access to all the data. Sorry, there's a slew of thoughts there, but I wanted to make the point of just because we go to a digital content doesn't necessarily mean it's been truly personalized, that experience for those students.
And I'm going to have Suzanne make a comment here, but I think what we're digging into right now is we're digging into the definition of personalization itself. Because we think personalization in the Amazon world is custom recommendations to me. And that's what the internet does right now. Okay, so that's that definition. And then there's the human side. It's like, no. You got this recommendation, but you don't really need that. You need this. That's what teaching really should be doing, like you said. So go ahead, Suzanne. I know you're dying to make a comment, then I want to come back.
Well, I just wanted to say that's exactly why we built the teacher dashboard, because it is a blend. And yes, I can personalize the student's pathway through, or the student has a personalized pathway through the software, but it's really the differentiation that happens with the teacher. And our goal is to provide the teacher with the data and instructional recommendations, or at least the support to make selections that are based off of the gaps that maybe those children, or the strengths that those children have, to then personalize even further. I mean, the fact that within Literacy Pro, students take an interest survey. Now, as a teacher, I see what their top interests are. So then I can select books that are aligned to those interests to then take my small group. And if I know that Jasna likes one thing and everybody's going to do what you like, then I might select a book that I know you're going to engage with that's going to get that small group really excited, right? And that's the power. I can't always know what every single child likes at all times, or can I? And the software really allows us to keep track of that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that if you are going to personalize for Jasna, it's in her interest, which is probably high fashion, because she's always very well dressed and fashionable. So Jasna, what's your comments on all this?
You know how hard it is for me not to say anything, and I'm listening. And Leilani knows that I am quite opinionated. And that is because I'm very passionate about students and teaching and learning, and providing instruction. So I am a strong believer that digital content should be embedded if we as a district decide to purchase digital content, then we need to make, from curriculum department point, we need to make sure that that is embedded in our curriculum. So we don't just provide our teachers with just, okay, these are the things that you need to cover. Oh, wait a minute, and here are the resources you have, let's see, Scholastic. No, we are providing them with, here are the standards, here are your essential questions, here are some of the activities that you can use using that particular digital content to get a hook for kids, some kind of the opening. This is what you can do for the assessments. During the PLC, you are using the data provided by that specific digital content platform, to analyze and see what you as a teacher can do to provide some personalized learning for students. For some students, working on that personalized learning using that specific digital content platform will be great. For some others will not. Maybe they will just need teachers instruction, maybe they just need some student tutorials, maybe they need a partner or another teacher to explain that to them, or simply they need somebody, maybe we can just direct the kid to Khan Academy, to watch a video. That's why I like the options for our teachers to create playlists or choice boards, because one set of activities does not work for all. And then we go to that Wild West that you're talking about. Wild West for me, and I guess because we are a large school district, when we purchase digital content, we usually purchase that for the entire school district, for all of our schools. So what Campus A has, Campus B has, unless there is something really small, like some of the new, what I call play tools, and you call them Wild West tools. Yes. So like for doing the assessment, you can do that using different tools that pop up like every 30 seconds now, and they're quite good. Some of them are really entertaining for kids. And no matter what platform you use, kids get bored. So if you could choose like for every single assessment a different tool, they would love that. So we give our teachers liberty, an option. Hey, here are some of the suggestions. Don't spend lots of money on that. If you can, don't spend any money on that. Use what's free right now, but save yourself and your campus the money for real digital tools, the tools that will provide you with diagnostic tests, the tools that will provide you and your students and parents and administration with the real data so that you can build from that, something that you will actually be able to focus on the standards that your students are not mastering and focus on providing changes or adjusting your instruction or providing that personalized learning for that specific group. So that's
so I like that blend, because here's where we are, and I would like anybody that's attending right now to hit chat and give me your top definition of personalization. Like, this is really what we're talking about here. Because if you look at chaos theory, right, like markets that have a lot of chaos to them and a lot of people all telling everybody what to do, you have growth because everyone can go in different directions, which is the same thing we want to have happen for kids, because they're little humans and they're all different. And they're not all going to be like little robots learning at the exact same pace and getting every little detail. They don't do that. They're human. So then we need a human in charge to catch all the little ways they fray apart at the seams and put them back in, so they can move forward. But you have too much authoritarianism on the other side. Some of those kids just don't make it, right? So this friction between chaos theory and authoritarianism, that's where we're at in teaching right now. And we're trying to bring more order, but allow the chaos. And it's a very delicate dance to get teachers in agreement that they should do some things operationally the same, and then have what parameters. How do you even define this, right? Like, here's the Wild West for you, but it's not as wild as it is over here in social studies as it is in math, so it's a very delicate thing that you guys have to do. I don't know any other industry with this amount of complexity, I have to tell you.
Leilani, this is what keeps me up like at night.
I know.
What you're describing is like, yes, like I want everyone to go this way because it helps us. We can manage it. We just bought all these tools to make you go and do, but I also need you to personalize. And as you ask that question, I'm like, yeah, let me go back. Let me try to rethink my definition of personalization. Like, I was trying to spin that in my head, and I'm thinking, as we customize the lessons for the individual's needs and interests, right? Like those are some words I would probably jam into my definition of that personalization. You're absolutely right that we are constantly, and teachers feel this tornness just in the classroom with all. Suzanne, you said 30 kids, right? You had 30 elementary kiddos in yours, right? And I taught physics, and I had across my 7 periods, whatever, 150 plus kids. Like, how do I personalize but not? And it's a constant struggle, constant battle. And so it requires us as district leaders to help provide the right tools. I think, Jasna, you spoke to this earlier, providing the right tools for the teachers so that they can use them at the right time. They determine that right time, they determine that right place, and they determine that right personalization. I wrote that what you said is, the district's not going to provide a personalized instruction for every single student. The district, well, we are, but we're going to do that through our teachers. But hot dang, it's a struggle.
Yeah, because literally we're living in this age where technically we have a structure that is a manufacturing line to whole group, and you're supposed to keep them all generally in the same pace. They can't be 2 years behind in math and in your class. Or if they are, it's like you're kind of triaging them out, right? You're just trying to keep the other 30 kids together, and this other one's just not going to make it, and you know it, and you quietly just try to not remember that when you go home at night. So we've got this whole group retail mentality. Everyone gets the same shampoo, and then we have this trying to teach to one, which is true personalization. There always will be friction there. So let's, before I go back to you, Jasna and Suzanne, I want to call on Celeste. She's from Charlton County School District. She's their online learning coordinator. Celeste, can you make your comment about personalizing instruction, please?
Yeah, I was just commenting, just listening to everything, everybody was saying, and particularly focusing on the chaos theory that Leilani mentioned. We are training our teachers. A lot of places are training their teachers to instruct in one way, but then when they get on the job, we're asking them to instruct in a totally new way. And that leaves the challenge up to the districts and the schools to manage that and to rectify or address it.
Yeah, and would you agree, Celeste, that the one way they're taught is normally lecture style, whole group lecture style?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't mean to call out any particular career length, but it tends to be some of us that have been in the profession for a while. And I think that they need our special consideration and attention and focus.
Yeah. And that accounts for a lot of the stress in the last year, because some districts were saying, we're moving Carnegie unit, 45 minutes, we're going 120 minutes for math, but you only can have 20 minutes on Zoom and the rest has to be asynchronous. And that just blew up people's minds everywhere. Because they were like, asynchronous what? We're always together all the time, what? No. Yeah, so that was the problem. Okay, so coming back to you, Jasna. Thank you, Celeste. Your comments on this whole issue of personalization in the planning, like if your lecture style, how would you do that?
As always, the biggest and the hardest job is of a teacher. They are the ones on the front line. So they see those kids, they can look at the data, but the data that they have and see every single day that's embedded in their brain is something completely different. So that teacher needs to personalize that learning for that particular child, based on the data that's on the paper and the data that they see, that maybe they cannot explain to anyone, but they know exactly what's going on. So that's why I think our teachers are magicians. They're superheroes. Now, the challenge here with all of us is that we have a wide range of expertise in our stuff. So we have excellent teachers with lots of expertise in teaching, in lots of knowledge in instructional strategies and in content and all of that, but they don't necessarily have the knowledge needed for the digital personalization of our students at this time. And at the other side, we have new teachers, maybe first-year teachers who don't have the teaching experience like their veteran teachers, but they do have lots of knowledge in analyzing the data provided by the digital content. They do strongly believe in that, maybe even more than they believe what they see in the classroom. So, and then I think the key here is to get those veteran teachers working with new teachers, and helping actually each other in creating some choice boards. So the veteran teacher, he's got the content. They have content and instructional strategies, in their hands. Now, the new teachers, they do know how to do those things, how to create the choice boards. That's when I mention a choice board to some of my teachers, some of them will freak out. The others one will welcome that idea like to everything. Or make a blend between playlist and choice board. Give students an option to choose what to do. Give them some directions, even which is actually good, even for async learning and in classroom learning. So try to do both. So I think that the big pressure is on teachers, but
Yeah.
without them helping each other, and without us from the administration encouraging that collaboration and encouraging that those PLCs, especially for the districts with lots of different courses, like ours. If you just think about the electives, and I think that not many people right now worry about the electives, but when you think about high school students, obviously you will worry about the electives because that's what's taking them to college. That's what's making them ready for college and the future in their lives. So I think we need to focus on both core content and the electives. And that collaboration between teachers will help with that personalization of learning for each student if we effectively utilize those the data provided by digital content.
Right. Yeah, and I want to use these last. We have about 12 minutes. Everything that you just said is I think the correct attitude from an administrative point of view. But I also want to point out that there's a lot of things going on inside software that Yasmin, you helped us with our dictionary early on. But the things now going on in there, we have over 200 definitions just in the dictionary. I don't know that teachers know software well enough to know what it should be doing for them. So I want to come back to you, Brad, because the widgety cuteness of software is something that I'm trying to fight against and say, no. It should do some work for you. Kind of like what you were talking about in Nearpod. Where do you think all of your people really are now? And you can go back to the personalization thing too, like Yasmin was just talking about, but where do you think they really are and actually understanding what it could do?
Yeah, that is a good question. My thought, we had I don't know if it's an awakening, but an awareness a little bit more to where we are. Thank you to the pandemic. And last year, March, schools are shutting down and shutting down in person, right? And let's go distance. Thankfully, the years before we had already launched Canvas. So we already had a nice online platform to help facilitate this connection. We had to onboard new tools like Zoom, had to become a norm. And so thankfully we kind of had a nice foundation as we ended that year and approached this new year. Over the summer, it was like, all right, we are going to have to provide a virtual option for, we had like 6,000 kiddos that wanted a virtual option. Like we had a heavy K-12. And so we were unpacking, do we buy content, digital content to try to fill this thing in? We have a tool like Canvas. Can we build content? Do we have teachers that already have content that they've used in the years past? Can they use that as a starting point to help other teachers leverage that pre-created digital content and tweak it for their classroom? And so through that experience, we learned a lot of things, right? And it's kind of the no-brainer. We have people all over on the continuum, and different levels here, like technology skills all over on it, right? Ability to create a video real quick for their classroom, all over the place. Ability to create an online assessment, all over the place. And so we have work to do. We have work that's why they call it professional learning. It's nonstop. We're constantly going to be learning a new tool, learning a new app, so we can infuse it the right ways. Hold on to that for a couple years, but don't hold on to it too tight, because there'll be new stuff that needs to be incorporated and old stuff that needs to be phased out. And that's hard, that
Mhm.
embrace the new and phase out the old, because in schools we just say, well, now we're back on the pendulum, and now we're going back to differentiated instruction. That's going to save us. And it's like, no, all this stuff is good. But what we're saying is there's a lot of room for improvement, as there always is. And in terms of digital improvement, the pandemic, I think, has helped push us away from some of our traditional practices and helped teachers say, okay, I couldn't do it in person because they can't be in person. So it's helped move them a little bit. And I hope as we get back to more in person, we cleave on to those digital things that are making a positive impact.
Yeah.
And take this new trajectory, take this new high road.
Yeah, I love everything you just said, because it gave a pure feeling for how different we are. We're not on solid ground. It's like we're on a ship during a high storm, and it's constantly changing. And that it's a new way to be. And what I love that Jasna, you just said, I want to come back to you, and then questions from the audience, please, and then Suzanne, if you could wrap us up with your comments too. Jasna made the comment that choice board is like really important, but I don't remember when I was in school giving choice on almost anything, right? Maybe some electives, but you went to class, everybody got the same. Everybody was the same. Everything was always the same. And there was really almost no differentiation, at least that was my experience. But now we live in a world where we're already attuned to at least that, right? How far can we take it is the real question. So Jasna, your comments.
How far we can take it. I think that as far as we can. I hate to say this because I feel that we are pushing teachers more and more and more, and they also have their limits. Everybody has their limits. But the thing here is, I like what Suzanne just put in chat, that the fact is that we are teaching, getting our students ready for the world that we have no idea what will happen next year. We don't know what will world look like in 5 years. And that exactly happened to us. We were telling ourselves, we're preparing kids for something that we don't know what. But then pandemic hit, and none of us was ever ready for that. None of us had pandemic 101 in schools. Right? There was no such a course. Well,
I didn't want it either.
You know what? They might even invent a course like that in some kind of educational majors, because, guys, it changed everything. It changed teachers, it changed students, it changed all of us in administration, it changed everybody involved in education. So I think when we look at everything that we have accomplished during this year, I think every single one of us can be proud, because this stuff was thrown at us without any warning. So, but every single teacher was just on board. Okay, everybody take the ball by the horn, and you just do what you have to do. It's just like when the electricity doesn't work at school all of a sudden because of the storm, you just switch to the plan B. Well, that plan B was quite difficult this year, and this time having electricity out in our case was longer than a year. So teachers have proven all of us that they can do amazing stuff. Educators in general deserve to be superheroes, and they are superheroes for everything that they have done this year. And every year, but this year is just so special. So I think we need to celebrate that. And I think that we need to give them credit as much as we can and as often as we can. It is very difficult to implement new things. It was very difficult to implement them in the good old times pre-pandemic, but now when they have to learn how to Zoom, how to mute, how to not to talk to their husbands or their dogs or yell at their kids while they're teaching, it's all of that. It is so difficult. It is difficult. It is hard. It is hard for kids. So it's hard for teachers. So I think the key is whatever product we introduce at this point. This year we didn't have a choice. So we had to put so much new stuff at the same time, and it had to be quick because we could not afford, to keep kids without instruction and providing the best. But from now on, we can, but just what Brad was saying, we provide them with new tools, and they're overwhelmed. Yes, they are overwhelmed, but maybe we can just cut those in chunks and giving them, kind of spoon feeding them at this point, not throwing the entire new product at the same time and tell them, hey, you got to implement this like in a week.
Yeah, you gotta treat them all like teenagers. It's just a suggestion.
Yes, just slow it down. Maybe just do data reports. 1 week, then do personalized learning using the digital content. The other week or the other month. Sometimes that, especially at this time, a month is a very long time, but teachers are tired. They cannot take any more new stuff. So that's why I'm saying we need to break it down into pieces and kind of spoon feed them if we want to see results.
Good suggestion. I totally agree. All right, so let's wrap this up. This has been such a great conversation, or we could probably talk for hours. So Suzanne, your last comments, and then anything else from the audience, and then I'm going to let people be free to walk about the country with a mask on.
Yeah, I just kind of want to reiterate what Brad and Jasna has said. I was talking to a curriculum director in the Southeast not that long ago, and she said her daily agenda is students and focusing on the bright spots. We've had so much change over the last year in schools, and it happened so fast, and it's been happening so fast, and there's been so many bright spots. I mean, I wish there would have been Pandemic 101, right? That would have been amazing. But the fact that it did force us to learn, to do things different, and to be agile, and to change, and to shift, and that our kids are resilient. And thank God for that. And, our teachers are tired, but they're also doing a great job. And so are all of you. So I just want to say thanks for that.
Yeah. Good comments. All right. So thank you to everyone. And Brad, thank you for your last comment as well. And thanks for being with us, Brad, and hello to everyone in your district. Thank you. And Jasna, thank you again so much. Looking forward to seeing you in September. And that'll be awesome to actually see other humans more often than just my dog. I understand dogs now more than ever. Why, if they get to go on a walk, they're so excited. I think I barked at a squirrel, So anyway. So let's just carry on, and thank you guys again for everything that you've everything that you shared with us today. I want to wrap up by just saying we have 4 more of these events, maybe a 5th one coming on our docket before we end off for spring, and then we have our EduJedi camp over the summer where we're going to go deep into definitions of terms and make sure everybody in the universe understands them. So that'll be super fun. So thank you guys again very much, and bye for now. Bye everyone.